Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name's Aisha Rosalie and today I'm talking about giving advice to new Muslims. Alhamdulillah. As a revert, I joined a lot of revert groups. So I meet and talk to or see online a lot of revert sisters. There seems to be a huge issue on the way that they are getting treated once they turn Muslim. So I have friends who have been told that they can't pray because they're not fluent in Arabic. I have friends that have been shouted at when they've gone into masjids because maybe they're not wearing the entirely correct clothes. That have been told they're not Muslim because they're not doing something that someone else deems that Muslims can do, so having kufar declared on them. But please make sure that you're not someone that's unintentionally pushing someone away from the deen, because none of you are doing it intentionally. I honestly don't believe that, because we can be unintentionally harsh and mean in a way that drives people away from the deen, and then they leave the religion and you'll say something along the lines of, oh, they weren't Muslim anyway, they didn't believe strong enough. No, people are on different paths, people are at different points, everyone has different experiences, especially someone who's right at the beginning of their path. You've got to be so careful because they've accepted this beautiful religion, knowing it's a beautiful religion. No, we don't hate people when they make mistakes. We try and guide them hand in hand out of sin. We don't shout at them, belittle them and make them feel bad, especially in public. That's not what we do. It's not the way. We have to remember that instead of looking at the differences between each other all the time, we have to remember that we have the same goal. I'm talking about the ummah here, I'm talking about Muslim people. We have the same goal. Me going into a masjid with another female sister, whether she's doing sin or not in that masjid, as a Muslim sister, I know that she has the same goal as me. I know that she has the goal to be the best she can be. So I think it's about remembering that first. Nobody has the goal to go to hell. That's not a goal we have as Muslims. We don't think to ourselves, right, I'm going to try really hard today to displease Allah and go to hell, and that's what I want to do. No, none of us think like that. If we make mistakes, our mistakes are genuine. They're not out of it's not out of this like desire to disobey Allah. When giving sincere advice, remembering that goal in mind, the goal to keep someone on the straightest path possible towards Allah and achieving Jannah, that's the goal, right? And helping someone in doing so. The worst thing you can do is to call somebody out in public. That's one of the worst things you can do. Humiliating someone, tarring their name, making them look bad in front of people. We as Muslims, we understand the importance of name and we understand the importance of keeping a reputation of someone. So if you're going to shout at someone in public, then you're ruining their reputation and probably your own reputation as well. That's why it's haram to gossip and backbite on people, because you're ruining someone's reputation. So calling people out in public is never going to work. It's just not. If you genuinely want good for that person and they come into a masjid and, for example, they're not wearing the entirely correct clothes, you shouting at them in that masjid is actually more than likely going to stop them wanting to come to masjid. And imagine if you're the person that's stopping someone from going to the mosque. The best thing to do is to take that person to one side, not to shout at them in front of everyone. Be nice to them, go up to them and say, sister, I'd really love to talk to you. It's nice to see you in the mosque today. Do you mind having a conversation? Sit and talk with them a little bit. Praise them. Say that you're happy to see them in the masjid. That maybe it's a revert, so you're so happy to see they reverted to Islam. MashaAllah, that's amazing. If you're you have to be knowledgeable enough to do this, by the way. With the knowledge that you have, guide them towards the sources. This is something I see Muslims doing all the time. They just start saying, haram, you can't do this, you can't do this. But if you're going to give advice to someone, we have to see the source. Show me the ayat, show me the hadith, because we can't just take advice from everyone all the time, or we'll constantly be bombarded with controversial advice. We have to take advice from Allah, the Quran, or secondary to that, hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. So guide them towards that. Make sure your advice has praise, make sure it's in private, you have proof. I think these are the three main things. The 3 P's, I'm going to call them. Praise, in private, and proof. With these 3 things, you can genuinely help someone. I really want to stop seeing these revert sisters and brothers as well leaving the deen because of the harshness of the people that they're meeting in masjids or groups, etc., and people being harsh to them. Remember, everyone's on a different journey. Even if you take someone to the side, give them sincere, genuine advice, they might not take that advice. That's not your fault, but at least you've done your best. And also, don't feel like you have to go around giving everyone advice constantly. But if you're seeing someone fall into a sin that's very obvious, you can help them. It's good to help them. But understanding what helping them is. And you can actually bring someone way closer to the deen if you give them praise in private with proof than if you just shout at someone who walks into a masjid and never comes into a masjid ever again. I know Muslims like this. I know reverts who've left the deen because of this. So be nice, be kind. And remember, none of you are true believers until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. That's the hadith from Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And just a FYI, comments on people's YouTube channels and Instagram pages and stuff just saying that's haram, you can't do that, is not in private, it's not with proof, and it's also not praise. Remember these 3 things. There's a lot of restrictions on the internet. You can't actually be with the person, you can't actually help them, so be very, very careful, I would advise, because again, you're more likely to turn someone away from the deen and towards it with this way. If you're going to give someone advice, I honestly believe it has to be in person. You have to connect with them. Just having a random Instagram page message you with some like, you're doing this wrong, without even a picture and all this kind of stuff, it just doesn't, as humans we just don't connect to it. It just doesn't feel right. So comments is always a no-no. That never works. It actually makes things worse. Direct messaging is better, but again, you have to approach it really carefully and also realise that you actually still could be doing more harm than good. And that's all I have to say. Thank you guys for listening. I'll see you guys again soon.